What's up, everybody? I'm Scott,
I'm Jason.
and you are listening to Liquid Kernedge. What's up, buddy?
Oh, nothing, man. Nothing much. It's a beautiful Monday. We're having a dream day today. Can't wait to talk to my good friend and colleague on Liquid Kernedge, baby.
I appreciate that. It helps get my week off on the right note. It ends a Monday because for those that don't know, even though we release on Thursdays, we usually record on Mondays or Tuesdays to give us some time to make any edits or changes. And this kind of is a nice way for me to unwind and end my Monday the right way,
Yeah, and after a long day at work, sometimes it's nice just to kind of unwind with a good podcast.
I agree. And there's quite a few times I come home from the gym, listening to different podcasts and just to kind of let my mind wander for a while because you can't always just listen to music. You have to keep that mind sharp.
Yeah, exactly. Stimulated.
It's stimulating. Absolutely. Speaking of stimulating, if you want some stimulating memes, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Liquid Kernedge. And if you want some great Star Trek or Swear Trek memes, hit up our executive producer, Tom, at liquid_EP on Twitter and Instagram.
Well, kind of in the same vein, I was watching the news this evening, and Oregon just passed a law that allowed for students in high schools to be able to count a mental health day as part of their excused absences when they're going to school.
What? They give you mental health days now?
Yeah, they call it a mental health day, and I think what it is before it used to be an unexcused absence, and now they're going to count it as like a regular sick day. If you were getting sick, your parents still have to call in. They still have to call in and give you a note saying that you're going to be taking the day as a mental health day. But they give you 5 excused absences in a 3-month period.
What? 5 in 3 months?
Yeah, 5 in 3 months.
When I was their age, and I'm going to sound like an old man on a soapbox right now, and I don't really give a fuck. When I was their age, I had mental health days every week. They were called Saturday and Sunday.
Ooh, deep. Yeah.
The rest of the week was school and work and whatever else we had to do. Fucking mental health days. What's wrong with the country?
They're estimating that 1 in 5 children deal with anxiety, mental stress, mental health. What? 1 in 5.
I don't know if I buy that. This is the pussification of America. It really is. And I don't want to sound like an angry middle-aged man, but I can hear it the tone of my voice. I know we're going to get a note on it, but I don't understand why we're all of a sudden being so sensitive. And even, I don't want to call it a snowflake culture, but it's you're sparing the rod and you're worsening the child. Does that make sense?
No, explain.
I mean, we were fine when we went to school. We just had weekends off. If things got tough, man, we just found a way to deal with it and move on. Now they've got medication for it. There's safe zones. There's, you can't stress out kids too much because God forbid they get stressed. They're not supposed to figure out how to multitask or what have you. It's dumb. It's annoying. It's making us a softer world.
What do you think of the idea that back when you and I were growing up, the amount of negative involvement or stressors was fewer than it is today?
Okay, I'll go with that just because the internet and social media has changed that world. But I don't think if social media is causing you that much problems as a teenager, maybe you shouldn't fucking have it. Maybe you should learn to stay away until you have some emotional growth and self-control and not worry about it and actually go out and get a job, play the sport, and talk to society instead of hiding behind a computer screen all day.
That's interesting. So do you think, because I started thinking of it as an adult, that we adults in the workplace, sometimes we get stressed out too. Mm-hmm. Do we need those breaks? Maybe not a mental health day, but like those breaks where we say we got to get out of where we are just to kind of reset our minds.
That's called vacation days.
Yeah, but some people only get 2 weeks of vacation or a week of vacation.
Yeah, anyone that gets a week or 2 weeks, they still have sick days though too.
Generally, I think that's a pretty broad statement. I don't think everyone is as fortunate as us with the vacation days like Noreen started a new job and she only had 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And
but that goes up. That goes up after a certain time, though, too. Correct?
Yeah, I think after 5 years, she goes up to 3 weeks.
All right, but she still should have some sick time on top of that, because most companies, if they give you 2 weeks vacation, give you a certain number of sick days on top of that.
It leads to an interesting question, because I think most people, if you mention mental health or mental stresses, we kind of, I mean, even in the starting of this conversation, we've looked at it as kind of a negative, like you're not strong, you're emotionally weak if you have to deal with stresses. Do you think that that's a general consensus, that if you show any signs of mental weakness or mental health issues, that it's a negative or a derogatory thing?
I don't know if it's so much that, and I don't want to come off as being a harsh critic of mental health days, because as an adult, I do see the benefits. If you're going hard, for weeks at a time at your job, you're trying to get projects done, what have you. I can see maybe an extra day here or there just to kind of unwind, sit there, and let your mind melt. I think it's different for adults than it is for teenagers. For teenagers, you're going to school. You have 5 or 6 classes a day max, and it's Common Core, so it's not rocket science anymore.
Yeah.
So, to me, I don't see why, life is so stressful that what, they can't go to football practice afterward or cheer practice and get their homework done. What's the problem? It's never been a problem before, for as long as there's been after school curriculum, activities, clubs, sports. Now all of a sudden we have to give them mental health days because they can't handle the stress of life at 16 years old. Fuck that.
I think that to me, it's more of, we've identified it more clearly than what it might have been in the past. I'll give you a perfect example. Alex has Asperger's. Okay, that's diagnosed now.
Yeah.
Asperger's in and of itself is not necessarily a thing that's going to affect his life negatively, where he won't be able to function in this world because of that Asperger's diagnosis. But 30 or 40 years ago, they wouldn't have called it Asperger's. They would have just called you kind of quirky, or they would have called you socially inept. They say that they think that Bill Gates has Asperger's, but they never would have diagnosed it as Asperger's. So I'm wondering if mental health is kind of similar. Is that, when a kid was kind of melancholy, they just called it, oh, they're just being melancholy. But now they've actually diagnosed it as something a little bit more severe, or social anxiety, or whatever diagnosis you want to put on it. And so maybe because of that labeling, it's brought it out into the forefront, that it's more open to us to discuss kind of what we're doing today.
Yeah, maybe, but I still have a hard time with it, though. I like, from a kid perspective, where you need a mental health day from school. No, what kind of tone does that set later on in life? Are you it's already, you have to watch what you say, you have to watch what you do. And I'll openly admit, I'm pretty liberal about a lot of things, man. Especially social things.
Yeah,
I could really care less. I'm live and let live. You don't bother me. I'm not gonna. I don't care what you do. Just leave me alone with trying to preach to me about whatever it is. But I kind of get upset when I hear kids need a mental health day because little Johnny's just too stressed out from school. Well, why? Look at the why. And, for me, it goes on from there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I have a friend who has children, and one of the children got subjected to bullying, just flat out bullying. I mean, just overtly being bullied by a group of kids at the school that they went to. And it was serious enough that they were contemplating homeschooling the child and taking them out of school completely. So I think that the bullying that you and I might have dealt with was maybe not as psychological as it might be in today's world. Because when I was a kid, if you were bullied, it just meant that the bigger kid would beat you up or take your lunch money.
Uh-huh.
Far cry different than now. When we think of bullying in today's youth, it's usually a psychological bullying, and it's usually on a social media where everyone knows. It's not, it's not so cut and dry where you're getting bullied by just a big kid beating you up.
Well, that's different than a mental health day.
Well,
Completely
why?
different.
Wait. Why is that different? Whatever causes someone to deal with mental stresses, whether it's overstudying in
Because
school, like the pressure to get perfect grades, or
what good is it at that point to give a kid a mental health day because he's getting bullied on the internet? That doesn't do any good. Just letting him avoid the problem for another day so you can go figure it out on a Thursday instead of a Wednesday because it makes him feel better because he got to stay at home. No, no.
maybe it's more of identifying that it's a real issue that the kids deal with, instead of just saying make up whatever excuse you want. If you want to take a day off, then just take a day off as sick, or lie and say that you're sick when you're not. Maybe Oregon is looking at it as we need to have mental issues and mental health issues out there as more of a mainstream type of discussion than keeping it secret, keeping it on the inside, or letting these kids deal with these stresses secretly.
I'm not taking away from anyone that's been bullied or it may be being bullied, but I don't see a mental health day as a proper way to handle that. I don't see taking a day off school to hope somebody doesn't pick on you online as a reasonable ends to a mean or means to an end.
Is there a different way of handling those kind of situations that could accomplish the same thing without calling it a mental health day?
Yeah, maybe their snowflake parents should go talk to other parents. Maybe take away phones or do whatever else. You know exactly how blunt these things need to be handled.
Maybe. I don't know. That's the parent talking to another parent, but that doesn't necessarily mean the kid is getting the help that they need.
Yeah, well, if it translates, you talk to the schools, there's a lot of different avenues you could take than giving a kid a free day off because he's afraid someone's going to make fun of him online.
Yeah, I feel like I'm pretty lucky because I've never had to deal with that kind of mental stress. But we've heard about it all too often where kids deal with those things and they deal with them behind closed doors and they don't tell their parents what's going on and they don't really articulate that. And
yeah, and
those kind of things, are very real.
Yeah, and
in
I don't
today's
disagree.
world.
And those are things that have happened when you were kids, when I was a kid. That'll happen when your kids' kids are kids. That's something that's part of life. You have
Right. So now they're acknowledging and saying it's part of life. It should be recognized that you need to take a day to kind of get your mind straight, then take a day to get your mind straight.
No, you see, that's two different things right there. A mental health day because you're being bullied is just taking a free day off so no one picks on you. A mental health day versus from working 6 12-hour shifts or whatever else, that's a whole different story. I don't think kids need a mental health day.
Oh, okay.
I think if kids need a mental health day, they should take away their fucking phones and social media and video games and unplug for a day.
What, as an adult, what do you think a mental health break would like? What would define what a mental health day or mental health day break would mean for someone who's in the workforce like us?
Now I'll use myself as a person example here because I do take them, but my schedule, how my schedule goes. I can go for a week at a time, working 6 days a week, with different events, programs, meetings, and so forth. And I can run, well deep into the evening. And I start work every day at 6 a.m. So some days you just need to just take a moment and stop. So I will look at my schedule, and if I can take a day here and there and do nothing, I will. But those are few and far between.
Do you think that those days help your productivity?
At home, because when you only have one day off at home over the weekend, you're trying to get everything done in one day and still have some semblance of a life. It's next to impossible,
Yeah. I don't know if I would call it a mental health day, but I remember for the last 2 or 3 years, I've always taken my birthday off.
Mm-hmm. One of those.
I put that down as my day to take off. Not necessarily that I'm going somewhere or I'm taking a trip, but I take that as, if you want to call it, a mental health day, to basically just celebrate my birthday.
First off, I want to point out that I wish you could see the look on all three of my dogs' faces when they heard you say you take your birthday off.
I know, because they understand that is the definition of a mental health day.
Or they didn't realize that you're a 21-year-old girl working at the Gap who wants her birthday off to go drink White Claws by the beach.
Whatever. You've taken days off for special things too. Don't even.
Yeah, never my birthday. I've never taken my birthday off.
Well, you're younger than I am. You don't know the benefits of it yet. You'll get
What
there.
are the benefits of taking your birthday off?
It's a mental health day.
All right.
It's an acknowledgement of how cool I am, that I get to celebrate my day as being cool and an addition to this world. And if you want to call it a mental health day, it lets me recharge the batteries.
We will have to agree to disagree on this one.
Yeah, it doesn't. It just sounds like you don't want to acknowledge mental health issues at all.
No,
that's what it sounds.
And
like.
I do acknowledge mental health issues, but
you'll criticize anyone who takes time off to kind of get their heads around it.
I will criticize anybody in school that doesn't need. You don't need a mental health day in school. You don't. I understand.
What do you mean you don't need a mental health day in school? What does that mean?
I mean, well, yeah.
You don't think that any kids deserve to have a mental health day?
How hard is their life at this point? Looking back, I mean, at that point, you feel like it's rough. But
no, because you're comparing it to where, as an adult, what challenges you deal with as an adult, that you say, oh, as a kid, it's like totally easy. But that doesn't mean that when you're a kid, it's totally easy. Right? I mean, yeah, we look back now and think, man, being a child was great. It was the easiest time of my life. I don't know what I was so stressed about. But at the time, you were stressed.
Yeah, you were stressed, but that stress shaped you into who you are later on in life. So having to go to your safe spot for a day to recharge because you got picked on in school, because that's the scenario you were given here, doesn't fly with me.
Okay. So, I mean, for some people, it does fly. Like, they dealt with bullying and they didn't like it and wish that they had the opportunity to take a day off. I guess maybe the bigger question is, why is there a stigma in the United States that if you admit that you are having weaknesses in your mind or mental state, that's kind of looked at as a negative thing, like a weakness?
Well, and I think it comes down to what you define as a weakness in this case. Like I said, I mentioned it earlier. If you're working 6-7 days in a row a week, working long hours, yeah, you need a day to kind of sit and relax and let your mind melt and not do anything. But if you're taking a day off just because, well, life's hard, I got dumped by somebody and I didn't get the promotion I wanted and I feel bad for myself, that's Saturday and Sunday.
So let me ask you this. Have you ever had anything bad happen to you where you just said, I need to get away for a while?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a mental health break, right?
Yeah.
Does that mean that you're a weak person because you said, I've had some bad things happen, I need to get away for a while?
No, because it didn't stop me from doing my responsibilities. I still went to work, and maybe I left early on a Friday, came in late on a Monday, but I still did what I was supposed to do and got my stuff done. I didn't feel the need to just call my boss and say, hey, I'm sad, I'm not coming in today, I need a mental health day.
Now, do you think that your boss would have said, oh, wow, Scott, no, that's not acceptable? Maybe that's the question.
And I can't answer that, but I can also answer to the fact that,
how about this? If an employee of yours had called you and said, hey, Scott, I'm having a kind of a bad mental health day, I need to take the day off, would you tell them no?
No, actually, I give as long as my staff has the time off in their vacation bank and they have all their stuff squared away, I don't ask questions. Technically, I'm not allowed to ask questions. So
yeah, I was gonna say I don't think you can ask the questions, but
so if they're taking mental health days, they're not telling me. They're just taking the days off and all their stuff's done. So I don't question it.
Yeah, maybe that's the key thing too, is the argument of take the day off for whatever reason. Doesn't really matter what the reason is, as long as you have the days to do it, just take it.
Yeah, and that's it. If you have the vacation time, the sick time, however you accrue it, and you want to take it for that, I don't care. It's not my problem. That's on you to take. But to build in mental health days into the school system, I think sets a bad tone later on in life for people that are in for a rude awakening when they get to the work world and find out that you don't get to do that like you used to in school.
But then again, the other argument side, the argument is that if you had taken mental health days, maybe you would have been more mentally prepared for what life has to offer because you were able to take those days to let some of the stress out.
I don't know. If my had balls, she'd be my uncle too. That's.
But if your aunt had a vagina, she'd be your aunt still.
You're absolutely touche.
The douche is right. I am a douche.
I said touche.
Oh, I said douche. There we go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, but no, and that might be the perfect comeback for that comment from now on. But
so, what would be the way that you would? I mean, tough love is a good way of doing it. Some people respond to tough love, and some people don't. So, being tough to say, hey, you're kind of a puss if you're kind of a wimp if you need a mental health day in school. Be tougher. What would tougher do to alleviate that?
That's a good question. I'm big on tough love. I know I have to work through my mental processes, and I want the people that work for me to be able to do the same thing. And I don't want to say break down over, but understand though, if you can break through this barrier that you're feeling down about yourself, you can get your job done, you can get your responsibilities done, and you can have some time to sit and collect yourself.
Yeah. It just got me thinking too, we talk about, hey, if I work 6 days straight and I, working, long days and I need to, you need some time to unwind, like weekends. I was thinking 50 years ago, those people worked 6 days a week, 12-hour days, making nothing.
Yeah.
So they probably look at us and say, God, these wimps, they only work 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
They get actual Saturdays and Sundays off. What wimps?
And that's very true.
Toughen up a little bit. Toughen up.
That's very true. And
is it fair to say toughen up? Things have changed, right? 60 years ago, kids worked in manufacturing plants.
Yeah, okay, things have changed, but let's look at it this way. I mean, were they given mental health days? Do they have to be given safe spots to go to in case they get bullied? I mean, how are you supposed to handle all this now?
Well, the same argument they could say, wow, why do you guys need Saturdays and Sundays off? Why don't you work 70 hours like we did? What's your problem?
I guess that's a good point. It's
times change for all of us. Probably, 50 years from now, they'll probably be looking at these people like, you only got like 5 mental health days in a 3-month period. Wow, you guys really suffered.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Maybe that's how it's going to be. I appreciate the European workforce's philosophy of how much time they give off, how much they want people to have a work-life balance. The unfortunate part about that is that has not been modeled over here in America. We don't have that. We have you work at least 40, if not more, and you grind until you don't. And I'll be the first one to admit, man, I work to live. I don't live to work. I still find my time for whatever else, but I get my 40 hours in at least.
Yeah. No, I think it's all a balance. There's some people that the more they work, the happier they are too.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. There are some people that if they're not working, they feel like they're just sitting still.
Yeah.
They live to work. Like I especially some of these manual labor guys, like these construction workers and stuff. It's like, if they're not creating something new, building something, fixing something, that probably deteriorates their mental health when they're just sitting there doing nothing.
Oh, I would think so. But I think at a certain point there are those of us that have to learn how to relax and do nothing. But again, I think it's all in phrasing. The minute you start throwing mental health day around, that carries a stigma with it.
It does. I mean, I totally agree with you on that.
And I'm not knocking those that do have mental health issues, that those that maybe need something like that. But at the same point, that's no different than sick time. At that, once you get to that level, someone's diagnosed clinically depressed, bipolar, autistic, whatever else, if they're in the workforce, working full time, they have sick days for things like that. You can't just call in and say, I don't feel like working today, so I'm not. If you do, it's a sick day or a vacation day.
Right. I and the argument that this news story kind of put out there was, let's open this up so that we open up the dialogue that it's okay to have depression, sadness, melancholy, whatever you want to call it. It's okay to have those things instead of, like you said, I mean, for most of us, if someone says that they're depressed, there's all of us have an emotional attachment to that word, depression, mental health issues. All of us do.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, I personally disagree with you a little bit on, like, my philosophy is that, just because it doesn't affect me the same way it affects you doesn't mean that it's less important, or, there's something wrong with someone because they look at life differently than I do.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, mental health is an issue. We have these soldiers that come back that suffer from mental health issues. We have people in these high stress jobs. Frankly, I'm surprised that the president of the United States doesn't golf more, because I have to think that being the president of the United States is probably one of the most stressful jobs there is. And for people to, whether you believe in him or not, for people to constantly be worried about him taking his mental health days, hey, man, if it keeps you sane, then, go for it. Because I got to think that's a stressful job.
Well, first off, you can't call him mental health days to keep him sane when I don't think he's very sane at this point or ever was.
Oh, I was thinking more in general, but you're right. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking more in general that, the higher the stress, I could see that you need to be able to find an avenue to kind of release some of that stress.
Yeah.
Especially when you're 24/7 job. I mean, that's a 24/7 job.
Yeah. And the same with the military. If once you go and you fight a war or you come back with PTSD, that's a different ballgame altogether. And that's where they have, psychologists, and they have people to help you, groups to help you walk through those and get through that whole process when you do get back. But it's up to you as an individual that experienced that to go through the process. And then again, I have no problem with those mental health days as long as it's built in as sick time or vacation or however, not just here's your sick, here's your vacation. By the way, here's some mental health days, just in case you feel like you need to take a day just to be under your blankie.
Yeah, and maybe it'd be better just to say, look, I'm taking a day. I have as part of my days off anyways, but I'm taking a day, and not even call it a mental health day, saying I need a day.
Yeah, and that's it.
And let whatever, if you're sick or, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and that's it. That's how I think in my office we view things. If you need a day, just tell us you need a day, and you'll get it. If you start going, like, if you start throwing around mental health day, I'll judge. I can't say anything about it, but I'll be the first one like, what? I know how your life is. I know how your life is. Don't start.
You know how your life is. Do you think I need a mental health day, buddy?
I think you're stronger than that. I think you could take some vacation time though.
My life's pretty stressful, man.
I
might need a mental health
day. I bet you're living that high life in North Phoenix, and
so now I'm gonna take my birthday off because that's my mental health day.
You're right, and you should do that. I'll take this Friday off as a mental health day then too, because
is there, as we end this show, is there one day of the year that you say, hey, whatever's going on, I'm taking that day off? Do you have any of those?
I don't. There are very few things that happen during the week where I feel like I need to. Well, I take that back. Now, after the Chef Fest in Laughlin, I'll probably need that Friday off. But that's not mental more than that's physical health from eating too much.
Hey. Whatever. Hey, as long as you just call, I need a day.
But I have my vacation time. I have my sick time. I have whatever time they give me. I am almost maxed out with everything, so I have to take it or I lose it. So that's how I justify it.
No, I'm with you. I just, like I said, there's certain things that I do. I watch the Thomas Jefferson on the 4th of July, and I take my birthday off. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what's going on.
See, and I watch Jaws on the 4th of July in the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, and that's about it for traditions for me and things I have to do throughout the year.
Hey, and whatever the mental health break's going to be, just take one, man.
Yeah.
Identify what kind of makes your mind go back to balance, then do it. Who cares? We call it mental health day, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, and again, I'm not knocking any adults that are doing it, but I'm saying to build it into the school year as an excused absence is dumb.
So you're not moving to Oregon anytime soon?
No. Which is a shame, because I've always thought I'd like to live in Oregon, but
now,
nah, not with that. It's all right. So why don't you guys tell us what you think about this? Hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, all at Liquid Kernedge. Guess how many times Tom's going to yell at us in the notes this week? Hit him up at Twitter and Instagram, all at Liquid_EP.
He's going to need a mental health.
He's going to need a mental health break after this. I can hear the jokes of that already.
Good topic, though, my friend. Good topic.
Jason, why don't you go ahead? Absolutely.
All right, I'll take.
Go ahead and take us home, Jason.
Thanks everyone for listening. We really appreciate you. Hope you have a great week and weekend. That was Scott. I'm Jason, and as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some Liquid Kernedge.